Wind your waist, move your body. I wanna taste. Tell me that you want me. Time and place, Giza Kilimani. Yeah, wind your waist. No, you sassy. No time to waste, drama. It makes me nasty. Find your taste. I know you want me. Fini storybook read you. You may be the naked and the you read you. Baby, come on when you want for me.
I think that's the value of the 3D printing is how you can do it for another hour, but did I not tell you there were superstars? Are we in agreement? Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, ladies.
Or an experience where you want people to be there in that space and experience it, you have to look at the strengths and the weakness of the technology. So it's going to be different for each implementation. It's not a one-on fix-all sort of solution, unfortunately. So first project I'm going to talk about is a project that I feel is illustrates how important VR really is, just in terms of communication and also bringing community together and building a sense of like I said, community among people. So in 2019, from 2018 to 2019, we used a project called the Amaze Train Jam, where we got a few developers in South Africa. So there's a gaming festival that takes place in Cape Town called Africa Games Week. It's in its 8th year, I believe, this year. And most developers that make games and publish, they can't get to the festival. So we organize a train trip from Johannesburg, which is a 34-hour trip, to Cape Town every year. Yes, and then while they're on the trip, they make games, right? So basically, so we call those things game jams for those that make games and hang out in those communities, and then they present those games when you get them. 2020 comes, COVID. Now we can't have the train. We can't have people working in space. Now, you see, this is where technology now needs to come in. We have to look at how to keep this thing going without, with people not being in the same space. It was a fun project, but we can't do it. So this is where VR came into place. We gathered together architects, sound designers, VR developers, to create this train now, a virtual train in VR chat world. So those of you maybe who have done VR development, you will know one of the easiest, well, I won't say easiest, but one of the most simplest sort of platforms if you want to start getting into creating VR worlds is VR chat. There's an app called VR chat. I would advise everyone to start having a look at that. The great thing about VR chat is you don't need even to have those VR goggles or any technology. You can use any, you'll just navigate that on an XYZ axis on your screen and you'll be able to work with it. And then we created a train and then we invited everybody to join the train online and sort of create the games. Everyone was represented by avatars. We were honest. So for that COVID year, this project didn't stop. It carried on as usual. So this is an example of when VR, and it worked perfectly. Even more so because now, not only were we stuck with only the people that were in Johannesburg, we now had people coming all over the world now come to join because it's a virtual world. We can have as many carriages as we want to add into this train. Of course, it's cost effective, but people were able to even build bigger communities and bigger games built in the VR world. So there were even new things being built on that train, right? So we did that and it worked amazingly so. The second with VR, so these are success stories of VR, how we feel built, sort of have real world, to solve real world problems effectively. And then the next one which we did, and they're not gimmicky, it's not like, hey, we just get a 3D world and we put it there just because. And the second project I was involved with, which was very good, and which was very interesting to me, was one we actually just sunsetted a few months ago, and we did that in Lagos with a collaboration with the Lagos Games Week and Africa Comicade, and that project is also is part of a project we were calling Dreaming New Worlds, where we worked with the National Commission for Music, the National Commission for the museums, yeah, and also what was very important about that. they did never work with anyone who's outside of possibly like, you know, a gallery or any of the glam institutions. You know, they would, but in this case, they gave us, you know, time to sort of like, you know, gave us an year, and they were like, okay, we can try and give this a shot. So to, you know, to sort of like see what we can do with the project. So they came on board, MCMM came on board, and then also, so the idea with that was we created a game. It was a game jam, and we opened it up to the continent, and we created games that were based on artifacts. And the reason why we created games that were based on the artifacts that were housed in the National Museum, actually in Lagos, was that some people cannot visit the museum, one, but also there are artifacts that need to be interacted with, and as you know, most artifacts, well, let me rephrase that. There are artifacts that originally, in order to get the best out of them, you needed to touch them, you need to move them in a certain way. But because some of the artifacts you cannot touch or interact with them in that way, we thought it'd be a great idea to sort of take those out of there and sort of like have them in a virtual world and keep and obey those physics that of how they behaved originally. So in this case now you're able to touch and actually see that, you know, certain puzzle pieces, how they move, you can actually move them without actually interfering with the real artifact. So the real artifact is still safe in the museum, but you're able to, you know, interact with it. So the game jam was called Echo's Game Jam. We've got a few teams from Tanzania that kind of went through and won that game jam, and which was also very great. I feel that was a great implementation because one, the game that was the first prize, we got to get the people to actually fly them to the museum and actually get, because also this is another thing, they were able to work on this contract without even being there, the team that's from Tanzania, and only got to be there towards the end and actually see how everything correlates to what they had built and check if it's accurately represented and such. So so there were two objectives to that. One, you have this online, so for someone who can't visit the museum, they can interact with the artifacts. The other construction was an actual VR setup in the museum itself, where you stand in front of the artifacts, which is still going to be built there, of course, because we only wrapped this up in a few months ago. When you stand in front of the artifact, you will be able to interact with how it was supposed to have, you know, worked at the time, but without touching the artifact itself. So you don't only just get to look at it. So this is something that's been interesting in the VR Excel space, I feel, the implementation. I still believe, right, I totally agree with my colleagues, it's very limited, the implementation of these things so far. Frustratingly so, because the technology is very powerful, but you can't really, you know, you have to really look. For me, most people just, like I said, they just go scan everything and they do whatever. But you have to like really think about, like, is it bringing value? Oh my God, is that a sign for me to stop talking? You have to look at, are you really bringing value to what you're trying to do? What are you adding to? You know, if it's not adding anything, well, I tend to be in two minds about things that are doing preservation and VR. You know what I mean? So you need to really be there in the space for these sort of things. It's a tricky one. But in terms of, if it's adding something, an experience, then that's my rule of thumb, then you go for it. Like, not leave that alone, you know? Think of a better way comes to sort of, you know, engage with that. So I would say those are my experiences of having worked with VR and AR in the real world to sort of like fix or sort of look at challenges that already exist and sort of like, you know, try to see how we can work around them using the technologies that we kind of have, which are already always improving. So that's it on my end. I don't know, I'll open up to some questions if you want to have some questions around AR technology images, XR technologies, and it could not only, it doesn't need also to be limited to museums or galleries or anything around that. Maybe if you are working on something like that, with that technology, you can take some questions on that. Oh, there's a hand right up there. I think my session is up as well, my time.
Hi, thank you for the presentation.
Hello, thank you.
Could you talk more about access to these technologies and how maybe so our potential for using or taking advantage of technology versus the potential of technology to take advantage of us, or like to users and to so there's a lot of fears on AI, also related to digital heritage and building archives and access, but just I think technology is a really great tool if we can use it, but then there's a lot of risks associated to maybe how it's controlled or who controls it and all of that could have potential risks for us.
Thank you. Is there a second question? Maybe I'll only take two because I'm already up. Okay, there's the third one. Only three, and then I'll be. There's one. There's a gentleman up there first, okay, and then that'll be it. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, hello.
My name is Richard.
Hi, Richard.
I have a question concerning the laws that come with actually creating the reality based on the culture. What do I mean about that is, are there laws that come with creating these realities, maybe regionally, internationally, that bind the digital archiving in such realities?
Thank you.
Just for the plot, because I want to hear what you're saying. We are overrated or underrated?
Sorry?
We are overrated or underrated? Why you here when
oh yeah. Let me answer this first, and then I'll come. You guys review the tough ones. Actually, that's also a tough one. It's also a tough one. Depends what. See, it's tricky with VR. It depends. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like a wave. So 2017 to 2018, there was like, oh, hey, it's coming. If I would tell you how many times I've bought and how many type of different VR headsets I've bought, because I'm like, okay, this is the one, it's coming, and then they just end up sitting. And then I have to sell it, and then I buy another one, because okay, now this is the one, this is the VR Exodus everyone has been waiting for, and then it just fades away, and then Oculus buys it. And the funny thing is that the technology is not supported, it gets obsolete, and that's it, they abandon it and they move to the next thing. It's one of the strangest spaces to be in. So again, I know I'm not really explaining, I'm not really answering it in the way that you would have liked, but it depends in which era you're asking me. If you're asking me during a peak VR era, which we kind of are climbing back to it now because also the Oculus has just released the new Metaverse 3. So new things have been added, new tools have been added to the SDK as well, and the APIs that are able to work with, that you're able to implement are even more robust. Now you're able to do things that you couldn't. It's not your typical, hey, I'm looking at VR anymore. You're literally touching objects and you have to see a pass through, meaning you're not only in a VR world, you're interacting with the real world, like real people. You have like, if I hand it now, I'll know your names, like an implementation like that, I'll have your names hovering so I know who I'm speaking with. These are real important things that actually help. Yeah, okay, now I need to remember. But yeah, so I would say right now, it's underrated now. In a year's time, maybe it will be operated again, and then it's like it's weird with VR. Yeah, it's like this. Yeah. So in terms of the laws, that's why we work with governing bodies that are in charge of these artifacts and all these sort of things. You don't just go into a museum or go to a gallery space and you just, hey, I'm just going to use photogrammetry or 3D scan. You have to consult the proper. There are laws, of course, governing everything. the traditional laws, IPO laws, like also just like how you need to interact with this. Also, just besides working with the artifacts themselves, there are laws that govern game developers. There are boards, ISA, how you have to follow the ethics. You don't just, it's not a Wild West. So I don't know if that answers your question. All right, and then you kind of sort of answered yourself so when you were talking there. So that's I'll respond to the first when you were talking, because I think the second one you actually had the answer to it. What you're saying. The first question was around access. So yeah, VR is not as inaccessible as it was before. We kind of have now a sense where, like I said, with VR chat you don't need extra equipment and a computer, right? Of course, there's still, you still need a very kind of decent computer with some decent compute. But you can get away without having a VR headset, like use things like VR chat to create a VR world. And when you deploy, people with those hardwares can and then interact with them. So yeah, it's not as hard as it was. It's still a limitation, but you don't necessarily have to have all the bells and whistles to deploy VR worlds. Yeah. And also just be careful of gimmicks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Use it when it's necessary. When you see that's value. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ranny. I'm still stuck on all of this other work that we're doing. It just makes up 80% of what the gaming world turns around. And when we talk of artifacts, there's a game that my son, 2 games that my son really used to play. One was Clash of Clans and the other was Clash Royale. It was Vikings. From their castles to their dwellings to their, what are they called? To their suits of armor. So I think he learned everything that he knows about Vikings from these games. So the challenge to us is how can we make sure that our heritage is implicitly or sublimated, is that the correct word? Being imprinted on people, right? Because not everything that we learn has to come from school and books. As I always argue, no one ever taught us that buses in London are red. But we all know that they're red, right? And they're double-deckers. Or that taxis in New York are yellow. But we know this. So how can we make sure that our stories, our normalcies are also getting infused into others? We're coming to the wrap-up. Are you sad? A little? A little sad? Yeah, sad. But it's not quite over, because we have something for all of you tonight. So from 5 o'clock, it's going to be happening the night at the museum. That's what's happening. And there will be no, what are those dinosaurs which chase people in the movie? There will be none of that. There will be none of that. Nothing is coming from the snake park into the museum. We're just going to have a good time together. But between now and then, we do have time still for people to go into the exhibition space, to go also to the reflection space and see the exhibition on the history of protests in Kenya. It's in the botanical gardens, yes. And also, like I said, the exhibition space, check out Somanami. I'm sure they have Juro's book, so you can buy it there if you've never bought it. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Tom Porter, who's the country director for the British Council in Kenya, for our final words.
Thank you. Fascinating and a brilliant way for the British Council to celebrate what we've been doing this year is creating space for conversations and hopefully learning from it. And we have had, I think, hopefully a really good and robust conversation here, but there's also a great chance for people from the UK to learn from the conversations here. So it's really great that we've documented this and gives us that a chance to carry on. Also, I appreciate the learning that I've been able to take from this. I'm 9 years into a 1-year MA at the University of London. I now have an idea for my dissertation, if they will accept it. But I think as we've heard, technology is not neutral. And I really appreciate, I think we've put something out into the digital world through this program, this Symposium, that is a force for good. And I think one of the things I've been reflecting on for some time is the challenge we have from the mayors up there around technology and AI. It's a scary thing, but in the age of AI, I would say bet on the creative and bet on the cultural. So thanks to all the teams that have put this together, and particularly thanks to the British Council team, many of whom are here, some of whom are back at the office, some of whom have left the British Council, but they've all played a part in putting this together. A particular thanks to our sign language interpreters, Rakeo, Daniel, Linda, and Colin. If you can give them I think the Prof has gone on to his next project, but the big final thank you for me is to Mo and the Prof for all the work they've done. So, Mo.
Stop boy, rocking with an up boy, moving like a straight out to the top boy. Siko de hini god boy, napenda wash and gwelo like boy.
خطواتك هي بتعدي ونظراتك فيهم تحدي وكلمات أنا حافظة عندي شعار وهوية. هي جميلة لكن قوية، هي بسيطة هي دغرية، هي عظيمة هي حربية سودانية. يا ناس الله عليها توبة لايق عليها، والحمل في ايديها سودانية داية الدنيا بعينيها.
So what about Sudan? What fun fact can you tell me about Sudan? But literally I don't know about that.
Sudan is the richest country, basket of Africa. The world, not one. Agriculture and food.
Be sure. And why Sudanese coming to Kenya?
For the war.
That's
Yeah.
Anyway, I see Kenya's the richest.
Sorry?
Kenya. Okay, my projection is 10 years to come. It will
Sudan.
for sure.
Once a country has resources, it will come.
So
So if your country is not at war, that's true. I'm not saying everybody should be at war, but when resources come, conflict.
yeah, for sure, that's true.
DRC, Sudan.
Anyway, Kenya we have like lots of minerals, lots of things. So
Right?
I don't think Kenya is a great country to eat also.
Yeah, no, don't pay for that. Don't pay for that.
Actually, don't play about it. Welcome to Sudan chat.
أنا بهواها لأني أنا هي نادوا الطير اللي بغني يمشي ويحكي له عني أنا بهواها لأني أنا هي خطواتها وهي بتعدي ونظراتها فيهم تحدي كلماتها أنا حافظاها عندي شعار وهوية هي جميلة لكن قوية هي بسيطة هي دغرية هي عظيمة هي حربية وسودانية
So I guess hapa hivi ndo amechukua hizo mawe zote like okay. I guess kuna sacred stones of okay after ropes. Yeah.
Different rocks from
Different sacred places. Alafu unaweza fanya I don't know.
kuna high spiritual energy.
madini kena jizi. Matrasi yangu lazima mchizi. Sasa lugha yangu imekuwa tangu aje. Tunachekana mimi sana tu maze. Na hizo drink tatu zote zimepita. Kimoja ukisema ngine mwisho. And for the last one, I was the last two songs. Lakini sipo blame, ushari wekezo. Na ndani things zangu, you know what's going on. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. Feel it, no one, your waist to get down. Remember me on my phone, vibrate and get down. Get down, get down, get down, get down. Feel it, no one, your waist to get down. Remember me on my phone, vibrate and get down. Get down, get down, get down, get down.
Upata niliyohitaji, si makosa vile wao kunipa nafasi mimi kuanza safari. Natoa shukurani angoyo rokamano
Unauliza niko wapi? Nikamero mind your business to fight for. Nani follow manze kama tiza disciple. Namba ronde mina tanaga kama chapo. Kuna luga enda westi kakateke mambosh. Kani ngoma mina skizanga wako. Eti kumnenezi mekuwa hii song. Siti kukolitu wezi fika mwisho. Sikishika sana mina baki kuwa indo. Mina majini tulisare kunywa pipa.
Niko makokolito na bado bebe katazoza sijafika mwisho. Na nijubebe wamejeza nkanipatanisha. Na kani mlina cheza mbale juu hawezi nisho. Juu ya kikokolito niko makokolito. Na bado bebe katazoza sijafika mwisho. Na nijubebe wamejeza nkanipatanisha. Na kani mlina cheza mbale juu hawezi nisho.
Nashindu nizame wapi, nyumba yangu sasa itaua wapi. Usimuchinde cheza kando, wakiseme jina zote unazo. Nashindu nizame wapi, nyumba yangu sasa itaua wapi. Usimuchinde cheza kando. Hata tukizungusha naishiwa naelewa. Hata tukichambu, hata tukinyela, hata tukitisha naishiwa naelewa. Sijali, ni lazima niweze makali. Nikosha mtu leo bahani, so sijali.
Wagwan.
kibao safi bora msiri mtano wase yami story sikiana yake mali basi itakuletea masache hiyo kisha nilifanya motivation lakini Friday tu angalia kesho kuchua nyama ndio kitu ya kwanza kushika mkoki gani ndio swali haraka kusoma maini ndio kitu ya pili na ifurahi ndio
Every step that I take, that's a level begun. Double or nothing, could they go far? Came from the bottom to switch up the scars. Chains on my neck mean I shine like the sun. 50 J's or 50 A's. I normally there's no 50 Mays. Strengthen the difference, you know who you are. Money don't change you, it shines your star. Time on my mind and I can't be chasing the high so low, yeah. You know this shit don't get easier. Woke up busy, I'm busier. Trying my best into cheesy, yeah. Lighting the world like a media. Energy charging from easy, yeah. We doing more than you see here. Shooting the shots, blowing this bounce. We counting money, my milli, yeah. Zeros more than you can see, yeah. Fuck with the money, keeps coming back. Spending my time full throttle on track. Rest of the busy, now for the impacts. I told you my shorty mean a budget like that. Leveling up from rags to riches. Leveling up pussy cap, na bitches. Living life in luxury. Famous status, need formalities. Jet setting, mean I traveled the globe. Not looking back, I was dying in cold. Taking the funniest, you fumble the kindest. Told you be careful, you handling gold. Yeah, told you be careful, you handling gold. Yeah, told you be careful, you handling gold. Oh no, told you be careful, you handling gold.